That should do it. Any questions?
No.
Then you can go. You won't be needed anymore. To be honest, pretty soon they won't need me anymore either. Then I'll go too.
Where to?
I'm not concerned about that yet. I'll think about that when I'm no longer needed.
When will you know that?
They'll let me know at the appropriate time.
They? Who do you mean they?
Fortunately, I don't have time to wonder who they are.
But when you're no longer needed, then you'll have time for it.
Yes, but then it will be useless to think about it. Then I'll have to wonder where I'll go.
Well, then it would only make sense to think about it while you're still needed.
Right, but no time.
But you already thought about the fact that it would only be useful to you now.
That much time was available.
How is it that they know that I'm the one who's no longer needed and not someone else?
They don't give me the details. My job is to let you know. That's it. Imagine if I were to go through the details every day with the hundreds who are no longer needed.
Let me tell you something. If you're no longer needed, then you won't have to think about where you should go either. Then it won't matter, you know? I realize that now.
You are right. It doesn't matter much where you are humiliated. On the other hand, some places might be more preferable if a warm meal is provided along with the humiliation, where you can find a dry place to sleep during the short nocturnal interruptions.
You mean that you can't be humiliated when you're asleep?
That's not what I meant to have said. Dreams are the most passionate guardians of our humiliation. Maybe it's just more difficult to humiliate someone in their sleep, but it doesn't actually have to fail because of that.
Coming from you, that sounds amazing. Excuse me, but you know better than anybody that you only have the right to eat and sleep as long as you're needed.
Obviously, you have to get out and look around.
You mean you have to be lucky? One does.
Right. Get out, look around, and be lucky.
I had a lot of luck. Until today.
So it seems.
Oh, monster. When you're not needed anymore, then it doesn't make any difference where you go or what you look for. You understand?
But you already said that.
Because of the unpredictability of luck, I have tried to live by a plan. Even so, most of my enterprises turned out totally different than I planned. In retrospect, an unimaginative option proved to be more successful than a sophisticated one, and every time I came up with a simple, uncomplicated solution, it turned out that a bizarre and fanciful one would have been more appropriate, both at work and in love. I persuaded myself that a great deal of misfortune would have been avoided if I had completed a higher degree of education. Night school, independent study, a doctorate. Maybe I would have then been able to work more efficiently, more systematically. I really couldn't ever see where it was all leading to. Not even with the simplest procedure, no matter how much I tried.
Could the reason for your failure have been a lack of competence? That's not meant to be defamatory. Not everyone's a genius. No one can be blamed for that.
The tasks become too great for us to handle. For some sooner, for others later. Procedural issues, technology. My job, to be sure, was pretty trivial. The problem was I was dependent on too many others on whom I had no influence whatsoever. I was too dependent.
But that can't be the reason why you're no longer needed.
No, that can't be the cause.
Look here, anyone in your position would say exactly the same thing.
I'm afraid you're right.
That's why you shouldn't worry about it anymore.
But now I can really worry about it more than ever before.
Yes, but it doesn't do you any good.
No. I still don't know where to go now.
I can't help you with that.
And why I'm no longer needed. You can't help me with that either.
I don't have any of the details.
But the details matter the most. The little reasons.
Don't insist on it. Maybe you should just let it rest.
Why?
Don't you get the feeling that a man like you, who asks so many of these kinds of questions, even though he knows the situation can't be changed by asking a lot of questions, that such a man can simply no longer be needed?
And what about you? You've been listening to me this whole time.
It's part of my job.
With everyone you break the news to?
Yes, for a certain amount of time.
I've probably gone over my limit.
No.
How do you know?
Experience.
Don't you get a little depressed?
Why? It's always the same questions, the same accusations. It's even left to me how I choose to respond. The only important thing is that people realize how meaningless my answers are for them.
And you manage that.
Now and then, someone comes along who tries to interpret my words as a hidden critique of his abilities. A reference to a little mistake. Something meaningful. And in view of the hopelessness which befalls most people as a result of my message, I am quite sympathetic. But it gets on your nerves. Just try and put yourself in my shoes for a minute.
Does it ever occur to you that your job will someday also be regarded as finished?
Of course. On Judgment Day, Matthew on the last day, I absolutely can't protest that.
Well, the last thing I could do would be to really put myself in your shoes. Very practical.
What would you do then?
I don't know yet. I'd give those who are no longer needed something for the road. Something to keep them together. Something to defend themselves with.
But they're just no longer needed. Their only weapon was this, to be needed.
Precisely. They should put up a fight nonetheless, if need be with force.
And then they'd be taken into custody, or sent to the insane asylum if it happens again.
Right, but then I would at least know where I was going.
Yes, you'd know then.
I can just as well let you keep sitting in your place.
Yeah. You or me, sooner or later, whatever.
I'd suspected all this for years, but I couldn't do anything.
Absolutely nothing.
After all, since we were needed, we were kept alive.
And not so badly.
I don't mean that in just a physical sense. If we hadn't been needed all that time, we would have wound up depraved and on the street long ago.
In white shirts at 10 a.m. in the bars? Playing the slot machines? Disgusting.
That's probably right.
They most likely don't even consider it an injustice to not need us anymore. We really have no legal claim to be needed.
I wouldn't know how we could justify one.
I always thought it was eccentric to justify the right to a so-called worthwhile and dignified life, based simply on the circumstance that we are born. Logical, it is not.
Nonetheless, an unhealthy feeling lingers on not to be able to identify someone who's directly to blame for the current state of affairs.
That's just the
At
rub.
least the system, the mechanics of it, the legality
It's
of it.
rather hopeless.
Don't misunderstand me. I have made every effort to keep up with things. I read some more. Nothing there. I thought very much that conditions could be changed with an altered state of consciousness. And get rid of the humiliation, down with the injustices. But it all got to be incomprehensible. Not a question of convictions anymore, if you know what I mean.
Old hat?
I think you understand me. What do the others do who are sent to you?
It varies. Curse. Whine. Some spit at me. Others beg. It all depends.
That sounds ridiculous to me.
Well, after all, it is a rather hard blow.
But you can take it.
You get used to anything. I mean, sometimes it shakes you up from a purely humane standpoint. But what good is that? There's nothing I can do about it. Not me, not you, nobody.
With that state of mind, you can put up with a lot.
You bet.
And I can go.
Where to, if I may ask?
Take a look around. Saunter about.
A look around is good.
Agitate. Mob riot in sight.
In spite of everything.
Now, what's the difference?
Why not?
Maybe something will happen after all.
That would be okay with me.
Didn't you say that sometimes they spit?
Yeah. Others bawl.
Where do they spit?
Here and there. On the table.
And then?
What do you mean, and then?
After that.
I wipe it off.
But some keep on trying.
Yeah. So long as they have any spit.
Right, sure.
Any other questions?
No.
Then you can go.